Hey girl, welcome to On My Mark, your weekly transformational podcast designed to motivate, empower, and inspire to aspire. Yes, in that order. I am your host, Ravimber C, and I'm a speaker by passion, philanthropist by purpose, and a Zimbabwean by tradition. I want to let you in on a little secret. This isn't your typical motivational podcast. This right here is transformational. So join me every Tuesday for your weekly dosage of inspiration. Hey girl, and welcome back to another episode of On My Mark on this special edition of Unspoken. I hope you joined us last week because that was our first episode and we had a young woman on here that was sharing her story of how she entered an early abusive marriage with a man of God. And I can just say I am mind blown by the number of conversations and the number of girls that have come forward this whole past week, sharing with me that I've been through that or I've been through a similar situation. And, a lot of them were praising this young woman for coming on here and sharing her story because they could also then draw strength from what she was saying. And some were even calling her a hero for sharing and, being brave enough to come on here and to share her story. So I know that this edition of Unspoken is really helping some people out there, and we can only just be thankful and grateful for these courageous young women that are going to be coming on here and sharing more and more of their stories so that someone out there can really draw strength from what they're saying. So I'm not going to take too much of your time myself. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to get right into today's episode where we've got a young woman on here who's sharing her story of how abuse can sometimes come from the closest people that you have, that being your family. Hi, can you hear me?
Hello, hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Well, thank you. Once again, I just want to thank you for coming on My Mark and for wanting to share your story so that you can, inspire somebody, teach somebody something. But I know for sure that whatever you're going to tell us today, someone out there needs to hear it. So whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. So today I'm gonna share what I experienced from childhood until now with my family members. So growing up, both of my parents were teachers, so I wasn't able to live with them, and my parents got me house helps and stuff like that. But then in the long run, they decided to take me to my grandmom from my dad's side to live with her, because obviously there were times where my mom would come back home from a break and then she'll find the house help in the toilet eating my Cerelac, and then just put a little bit on my mouth and lie that the baby ate. And then I'll be crying because I'm hungry and my parents wouldn't know what it is, taking me to the hospital and things like that. So my parents just thought, you know what, we've had enough. They're all abusing our child. So she's better off living with a relative because obviously they'll probably care for her better than what the house help would care for her. So I was so intelligent. I believe I still am. So I started going to school at a very young age. By the age of 4, I was already in it's year 1, year 2. Because obviously I was in school back home in Zimbabwe at that time. So obviously we do grade 1, grade 2, up to grade 7. But here you do year 1, year 2. So I think I was about year 1 at that time, but I was 4 years old. But my experience there was the worst experience that I can ever say. My grandmom, it was my grandmom, my granddad from my dad's side, my dad's uh, two brothers, and my dad's sister. So yeah, even when my grandmom was giving me a bath, she would make me sit on this dirty water, scrub my body with this rough stone and everything, and I would always suffer from like, a rash in my private areas. I wouldn't be able to walk properly. In the morning, I would just get beaten up. Whoever is so stressed would just wake up, get like a hose pipe, use that to beat me. It was just really the worst experience. And then obviously my granddad lost his job as a conductor, and he just got into depression. So it was just my grandmom working at that time. So you would find that my granddad ended up doing everything, my grandmom's laundry, including my grandmom's underwears as well. So obviously, because of that depression, back home, people really didn't have the knowledge that someone is suffering from depression. So he would just get stressed and beat me. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. My granddad would take me to school, pick me up from school, and then I wouldn't be able to go out and play with my friends. I had no social life at all. I didn't know how to communicate. And even if I went home on holiday, my grandma would be like, if you ever tell your parents what's happening here, when you come back here, remember you come back here, then we'll kill you. I was being threatened. And at that time, my parents would pay like a lot of money to dairy board that every day I should receive my meal from dairy board and everything, because I went to quite a good school.
Mm-hmm.
But then my grandma would be like, bring that milk. So that meant that my meal that I'm supposed to have at school, I have to bring it from my grandmom. And if I don't do that, I was so scared that I will get beaten, I'll be in trouble and everything. So I started, like weighing myself, or at least I'm just sitting there, like outside. They used to call them stoop, a sitting area outside. I would just sit there, and I'm scared to even go to the toilet because my granddad would be like, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And I was just this child that was so scared, that was just lonely, no social life, not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how to interact even with other kids. And I remember one day I was so hungry, and I actually snatched someone's food from their hands, and everybody was following me to my house. They were like, "Oh, she's a thief, she's a thief." And I just couldn't communicate this with my mom. But the worst bit that I remember vividly is the day where my cousin spoke to one of the ladies that was living in the other room, was renting one of the rooms in the house. And then she was like, "Oh, yeah, I heard grandmom and granddad discussing that you bent grandmom's skirt." And then she was like, "But if you say it's me, I'll get beaten up. So just say it's her so that I don't get in trouble since she's younger than me." But she actually didn't know that she was signing a death warranty for me. So my dad's youngest brother, I remember he took me and he threw me onto the sofa, put his knee on my belly. And you can remember I'm just like a 5-year-old child. And then he held my head down and started beating me with a hosepipe that had little wires inside my whole body everywhere, until I was just laying there lifeless. And this lady was just sitting there holding a baby, watching me get beaten, my grandma, my granddad, everybody. So obviously I went back home to my parents, and my mom was giving me a bath. She was like, "What happened to you?" I was like, "Nothing, nothing." Because obviously you're so scared to talk because you've been threatened that if you say what we have been doing to you here, when you come back, we're going to kill you. So I was like, "Nothing, nothing," until my mom was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going to beat you now if you don't tell me what happened to you." So this is when I started telling her, "Oh, yeah, I was beaten by dad's youngest brother. This is how he did it and everything." And my mom was really, really pissed off. She was like, my child is not going back there. They nearly divorced with my dad because my mom was like, I can't take it. My child cannot go through this. And then obviously my dad was like, but these are my parents. It's sort of like you're hating my parents and everything. Let her just go back. Just give them like one more chance. But then when I got there, it looked like things started getting worse than they were. One of my dad's other brothers would lock me in a room because I'm so terrified of snakes. I don't like snakes. So he would lock me in a room with a rubber snake, and then I would just pass out. But when I'm passed out, I don't even know the things that he would do to me. I don't even know what was going on in that time when I was passed out, because I would just pass out if I see a snake. And you can imagine, you're just a kid, you can't even tell the difference between a real snake and a rubber snake. It just went really bad. They would lie that, oh yeah, your child likes to eat this kind of food. And it's only when I was a little bit older, when my mom was like, do you know, we used to bring you lots of eggs, lots of meat, quality meat, expensive meat and everything. And I'm like, what? Really? I never even had any of those. I didn't even know that is what was happening. Even if my parents visited me, I wasn't allowed to talk to them. I had to talk to them in front of everybody because they were just so scared what I would tell my parents. But to be honest with you, I can spend the whole month talking about what I suffered in their hands. The only time I would actually enjoy myself is when my relatives from my mom's side, my mom's brothers would come because they loved me so much. They would take me out for shopping and everything. Even if they gave me pocket money, my grandmom would take it from me. And then she also had a friend she worked with who was like our neighbor. She lived like 3 houses from our house. And my grandma would be like, okay, carry her bag. Because every time I carried a bag, walked there to her house, she would give me like $10. And $10 at that time was like big, big money. But then my grandma, every time she knew that this is what happens. And then when I come back home, she'd be like, give me that money. So one day I tried to hide that money and she went through my bag. She found that money. You know, as a child, you don't know how to hide things. You just hide it in your bag. So she took that money. She was like, don't you ever do that again. If you do that again, I will beat you. I'll kill you. But in the long run, I started getting abused by this woman's husband, where you'd be like, oh, yeah, my wifey, come and sit here. He would sit me on his lap and start touching my little boobies. And you can imagine, at 5 years old, you barely have anything on your chest. The husband would take me. He'd be like, oh, wifey, wifey, you know how people play. You know, I'm going to say this in my language.
Yeah.
A little bit. They'll be like, oh, chiramu or something like that. You started touching like my chest and there's nothing there, you know, touching your private parts. And you just have to keep up with that, just because obviously there's a reward that's going to come, and it's for your grandmom as well. Because if you come back without the money, she'll be asking you what happened, why didn't you do it? Even when I offered to carry her bag, she would be like, no, carry her bag and walk her to her house, you know. And even if I tried to tell her this is what's happening, she really didn't care. All she cared about was the money. You know, like, it was just a lot really that happened from my dad's relatives. But without taking much of the time, I think I'll kind of stop here, see if you've got any questions.
I've got plenty of questions.
I've got time to answer them.
I'm just so the story you've just said, it's one that I've seen a lot of people express you know, going through abuse like from family members, and this is actually a common thing that a lot of young women have expressed that they have gone through. I mean, you shared quite a lot of things, but at first I really just want to understand, because you said these are your grandparents from your father's side, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask, because like, how was your mom's relationship with your grandparents?
When my mom came into the family, my grandmom didn't like that, because she was like, why is it that all my children, when they finish school, they just get married without me actually spending their money or enjoying their money? So she just didn't want my dad to get married yet. She wanted to, enjoy his money before he can get married. So already it was a no. I do not want any daughters-in-law at this point.
Okay, that I understand that. Obviously, you said you were taken to your grandparents' house because your mom and your dad were both teachers.
Yeah.
Were you the only child?
At that point, yes, I was
Okay.
the only child.
There's something that you mentioned that really I really wanted to discuss, because I know that this is something that has affected a lot of young women in Africa when it comes to cultural norms and everything. You mentioned the word chiramu, and I just wanted to obviously explain to people that do that don't understand.
Yeah.
So for like chiramu in English, it means like a playful teasing friendship between a girl and her brother-in-law, per se, right? And
Yeah,
the thing
something
is,
like that.
yeah, the thing is, cultural norms and practices, they play a big influence role when it comes to African society, and especially in Zimbabwe, where culture is a moral ingredient that epitomizes like a sense of identity, purpose, and belonging. Now, despite all these high moral values that we have and culture in Zimbabwe, research has like worryingly shown that the customary practice indigenously known as chiramu can be very harmful to girl children. Now, I know a lot of people hide. You mentioned that this man would call you the your grandmother's friend's husband,
Husband.
right? He would be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, my wife, oh, our wife," that thing.
Yeah.
And I know that culturally, calling a young woman like my wife, it happens a lot. Like your bamkurus, which is like your older uncles, can call you like our wife or my wife and all of this. And I know that a lot of people hide behind, that whole my wife thing. And a
Yep.
lot of young women have been abused because of other family members, hiding behind this term and of calling young women my wife, my this, my that. And, when you mentioned that this was happening to you, I wasn't totally surprised. I mean, I'm shocked because you were so young, and then for you to express that this man would obviously be touching you, like on your private areas and stuff like that at a young age, that's abuse. I mean, so I wanted to ask, when this was happening, when you was being touched, was anyone aware that this is happening, like the wife or your grandma? Did anyone ever notice this happening?
Right. So this would mainly happen. I think the wife knew. So she would be like, okay, I'm just gonna go to the bedroom and get you some money. And then this is happening. And I would tell my grandmom, but she'll be like, you liar, I don't want to listen to you. What do you think that
Wow.
old man is going to do to you? She just didn't want to listen to it. So at the end of the day, I just felt like there is no point for me to say anything, not even to my mom. I wouldn't even say anything to anyone. So I was just suffering really in silence, like, okay, fine. I've told my grandmom. So if she doesn't believe me, what will make anybody else believe me?
Wow, that has been, a lot, and I really just want to thank you for obviously sharing. I mean, to have gone through all of this at such a young age, I cannot even begin to imagine, how it was then, and then how it has been for you, like the journey of trying to, to just heal and forgive and to move on from that. I mean, from picking up what you're saying, I just I'm interested to know, how is your relationship now with your grandma in particular, or with your uncles and everyone that was involved in obviously what you went through at such a young age? Do you still have a relationship with them?
Right. Dad passed away a long time ago,
Sorry.
2004. He suffered from a health condition. I'm a forgiving person and I like to move on from things. But sometimes what makes you not to be able to forgive someone is if they are not remorseful of their actions, and they want to keep on, justifying why they did what they did. This is exactly what will make someone not be able to move on from that. So I tried to confront one of my uncles, obviously, when I was a little bit older. I was in university then. And then I called him. I was like, well, I just want to get something off my chest, because this is something I've been carrying in my heart for so long. But at the end of the day, he denied everything, and he actually called my mom. He was like, how dare she calls me to insult me? And then it caused a very huge tension in my mom's marriage. So I ended up just leaving it like that. So what I've done is I've cut out my family, like my dad's family, like all of them. There's nobody that I talk to, not my grandmom, not my dad's brothers, not anybody. I just cut them off, all of them.
Okay. And how are your parents' relationship now with like your grandma?
Obviously, my mom is just this respectful person. She doesn't hold grudges or anything like that. So she still respects my grandma, obviously, as a mother-in-law. Obviously, my dad, that's his mom. There's no way he's gonna cut a relationship with his mom.
Okay. And you personally, would you say you've healed from what you went through, all the trauma and everything that you went through at a young age? Would you say you've healed from that now?
To be honest with you, I haven't healed from it. I mean, now I can say I'm just starting the healing. I think it's the lack of closure that will make you hold on to something. But if there is some sort of closure, like if she was this person that I could actually sit down with and say, you know what, grandma, this is what you did. And she'd be like, oh, I didn't know that I was hurting you in this way. I would have moved on from it a long time ago. So now that she's out of my life, I've actually started the healing process. And at some point, I actually had to go for counseling, because I was like, this is really, really not helping. It's affecting even my own relationships, even if it's like boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. It's affecting you because now it starts on communication. It's a seed that would have been planted where you're told, don't say this, don't say that. So now you're not this person who is open, and sometimes you're not this person who is so truthful. You do something and then now you can't even tell the truth because you're scared. Oh, how is he going to react to this? Is he going to leave me? Because now this is where like a lot of issues begin, like attachment issues and things like that, where you feel like, okay, fine, if I say this, I'm going to lose you. But I feel like this is the person that loves me. So yeah, I feel like to some extent it has affected how I handle my relationship.
Okay, well, one thing that I will obviously say is that you've obviously expressed that it's only now that you feel like you're beginning to be on that healing journey. And one thing I know about forgiveness, and a quote that I always love, is that says that forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future. And in as much as we have gone through what we have gone through, there's certain things that we cannot change. And one thing that it's never easy to move on either, like what you've said, it's now you're having to unlearn so many things. Sometimes growth is about unlearning things. So there were so many things that you adopted when you were going through these things, so many behavioral traits that you picked up at a young age, and now you're having to unlearn all those things. And it's never something that is easy, but I do just want to obviously commend you for even going to therapy, in as much as you feel like, oh, you're just going there to speak to someone, but there was one point in your life at a young age where you couldn't even speak to anybody. So even that alone is growth in its own sense. The fact that you can actually open up to someone. I mean, even you coming on my mark now to share your story, that shows a tremendous amount of growth. Do you know what I mean? Because there was a point where you couldn't even speak about what you were going through, but yet now here you are sharing your story to so many people who doesn't even know you, but you want to share your story because this will help somebody else in your situation. So I really feel like you're well on your way to healing and to growing. And I'm happy that you're taking steps and you're looking at different things that can help you. along the journey, and I can only hope that, you know, you continue that healing process. And I'm very happy that you're aware of areas that it's affecting in your life, because that way you're able to address them and you're able to look for solutions. Because when you're not aware of these things, then it's difficult to deal with the problem. You know what I mean? But when you're aware
Yeah.
that, oh, this has affected me in my relationship in this area, it's affected me in this area, in my social life in this area, then you actively look for, you know, things that you can do in those different areas for you to be able to fully, you know, to fully heal and just live your own truth. So I just want to, you know, thank you for coming on and for sharing your story. And before we finish, I don't know if you've got something to say to just another young girl who's been through, well, you know, who've experienced abuse from family members, or who's currently being or experiencing abuse, or, you know, still on that forgiveness and healing process. If you've got any few words that you want to share to them right now.
Okay. What I can say to anybody who is going through, I know, a hard time with their families and everything, I just want to say, don't give up hope. No situation stays the same, and it does not last forever, because I never saw a way out when I was going through all this. I just felt like, okay, fine, is this what my life is going to be like for the rest of my life and everything? But obviously things do change. I'm in the UK. I'm able to work for myself. I'm having a better life. So you never know where you will be tomorrow. And I just want to say, if you are a good person, don't make your situation make you a bad person. Continue to be good, because God will always reward you. He always sees. So I just want to encourage people, like, never give up hope. It's always important as well to be well informed about the signs of abuse. It's always good to have a relationship with your kids, so that they will be able to open up to you more. To anyone who is going through a hard time, just stay strong and just know that life is not going to remain the same. One day, a door is going to open. Focus on your dreams and keep working hard. Look after yourselves.
Wow, thank you so much. And thank you for those words of encouragement and everything that you said. And I just want to also encourage people that were listening today that, you know, ask for help if you need help, seek for help. You know, if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't lose hope. No, like what you've said, no situation is permanent. You know, no matter how bad the situation may be, it will change. So I just want to thank you so much again for being on All My Mark. And join us again next week at 6 p.m. when another young woman will be on the show to share her story.
Join us again next week as we continue to transform and win. Be sure to subscribe on our website onmymark.co for weekly exclusives and giveaways. Until next time, on my mark, get set, let's go.